Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the Clusterfuck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. Here at Center Ice, I am Nick, and beside me, as
Hi.
always, is Brit. How's it going, Brit?
I'm good. How are you? I feel like it's been a century or so.
It's been a year. How's your
Almost literally,
2025
though.
treating you?
It's going, man. I'm ready for summer, but I still want hockey. The snow,
Oh, sure.
my dog's trapped. We have big furry dogs that bring everything in, so we just got nailed today. You guys always have snow, though, don't you?
Well, I tell you what, actually, it's been really warm here in Utah. No snow. We haven't had a drop yet.
Really?
Up in the mountain shore, but like down here in the valleys and whatnot, no. It's the weirdest thing, which it never happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we weren't. We wore like hoodies on Christmas Day in South Dakota. So I don't know. I feel like we have a really harsh time. Like we're due for some bad weather karma. It's like messing with us is how it feels.
Sure. So I don't know what to say. We've had a green Christmas, a green New Year's, but you know what? That's okay because hockey is still around and the Avalanche are winning. So that's the important stuff.
Did you stay up last night and party for New Year's? 2 nights ago with the
2 nights ago. Yeah, I was able to make it past midnight, and now my old age, I guess I can say I made it past midnight, but then almost promptly went to bed.
What a weird schedule. There was so many games that night, and of course that's the team that I work for. That's their tradition. So I had to work, and there was about 100 games that I would have liked to watch at the same time. So it was a weird, and then the Winter Classic not being on New Year's Day. How do you feel about that? Were you as salty as the rest?
That one is the one that felt probably the weirdest. I would say is having the Winter Classic on New Year's Eve. Like it was fine. The game was, predictable but fun. Mm-hmm. But yeah, not having it on New Year's Day was very weird. And I get why they moved it. I just don't agree with the move itself. Does that make sense?
Kinda. At some point, they have to put their foot down and just get bossy and declare a day. Like, you know what I mean? Like the football Thanksgiving, like they need to just demand it and stick with it because I just feel like we don't really have anything like the NBA in football. We're not as big, but we need to assert ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, either way, it's fine. It's around the New Year time, but yeah, it feels better when it's on New Year's Day. So
I wish I could have gone. It looked awesome, though. It was only like 8 hours from us, but getting into Chicago and like to the field is probably an additional hour. It's just Chicago is daunting to me. Maybe I'm like sounding very Iowa right now, but it looked absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, Wrigley Field's one of my bucket list places to visit. So maybe one of these times, next time it's there in 3 years.
Well, supposedly maybe Colorado they keep saying for a stadium series. Sounds like did they hint that the Winter Classic was just going to be 2 Florida teams next year?
Say that one more time.
Oh, hey! Did you? So Bettman made some comments, and it sounded like the Outdoor Classic was going to be at like 2 Florida teams next year, which we couldn't even make it happen in Lake Tahoe where there was snow on the ground. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not one of those people who feels like we need to take it to I got the hiccup. Sorry, to the outdoor or like to the hot places. It kind of drives me nuts that everybody's pushing that. I don't know how you feel, but I hate it.
They did it at Dodger Stadium twice right now. So, and that was
the Dallas one. They said it was great, but the point of an outdoor game, like we went to the stadium series, and maybe it was like the maximum experience, but you're supposed to go and be cold and like have some snowflakes and drink.
I know that's what I'm wondering is. With Florida being, I guess, the next team, they are saying it's going to be either against the Rangers or the Bruins. You know, these new rivalries that they've just created, which I'm like, that's fine.
I feel like the Rangers
whatnot, but again, it's gonna be 70 degrees and whatnot. I don't know.
And it just makes the hockey bad. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. However, if they do have a next Winter Classic, I wouldn't mind seeing like a little Rocky Mountain Rumble with Colorado and Utah. Like that would be pretty cool.
Could you imagine some of the scenes that they could set up in either state? I mean,
and you got plenty of venues that could host it. It would be awesome.
For sure,
It'd be so cool. But we digress. Either way, let's go ahead and kick this episode off, huh? Before we begin, let's remind you to like and subscribe, follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, you can do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. All right, Britt. So new year, we're going to go through our resolutions for the team. But before we do that, let's kind of walk back a few games to the last episode that we recorded. We're on a 5-game winning streak right now. Britt.
I mean, like new year, honestly, feels like new team, a newfound hope. This like right now compared to a month ago, the vibes are so different.
Oh, it's day and night, and I tell you what, like even with the return of Miles Wood, Jonathan Drouin, kind of everyone now that I guess Nichushkin's now listed as day to day, which we all know is probably going to be week to week by tomorrow.
Yeah.
He
sounded nonchalant about it, right? I hope that.
But either way, for as healthy as possible Avalanche team, they're looking great. I don't really have too many words to say as far as like corrections and stuff like that in these last 5 games. Let me pull up the games here. So they beat. Let me see. They beat the Sharks. They beat the Ducks. They beat the Kraken. They beat Utah, and they beat the Jets. And all pretty handedly too. Like it wasn't like this down to the wire, nail biting kind of stuff. Yeah, the Ducks game got a little closer than you'd want it to, but it never felt like it was going to be.
Those teams, those are all teams that usually we like dump a game on or two. Like if you looked at those without knowing what the outcome was, I would have definitely assumed that there would be, especially at this point in this team's journey, you would have thought that we would have at least lost 2 of those because that we just aren't. We're hardly winning the games that we have to, and just usually winning the games that we should. And we won all the games we should, and the ones that we have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing is that's 10 points right there. A 5-game winning streak is 10 points. Right. So again, it's kind of hard to speak wrong of them right now that, because obviously when you're winning, you have less to complain about. Right. But it's comforting to know now that we have a solid goaltending tandem. Now that we have all of our pieces back.
I was watching the game and I told my husband, I can't believe it. I forgot what it feels like just sitting here and not feeling like tangible, I don't even know the word, like an actual physical feeling every time the other team shoots. It's so nice watching the game comfortably and knowing that the goaltending isn't the first issue and then all of the other regular issues.
I know. And all this goalie tandem talk, and albeit it wasn't until last game that finally they had Avalanche equipment on. I know. Their helmets finally arrived, and it's like, gosh, that felt like it took forever.
I know. But, and then I thought, as fun as they both are, I thought one of them would go with some crazy pads, but I think that did they both just get the same pads they had in their last teams, just in the correct colors?
Yeah, they just changed the color. So nothing too flashy, but at the same time,
on the other hand, we go all out.
Oh, sure. But yeah, this goalie tandem has been nothing short of fantastic. They're not perfect, but they do the job. That's all you need them is to do the job, because the Avalanche have the offensive capability to go out and score, right? Well, and when they need to, they can.
It all is like cyclical. It was so nice to hear I can't remember who it was. One of the beat people said that they were like in and around the locker room, and that there was just kind of a big conversation afterward amongst the reporters that the locker room is so much lighter and goofier, and people are staying longer and talking, which it's not just because of the goalies or because of their attitudes or because one person is gone. It's just it all builds, and it's just really nice to hear that they said that everyone seems to be feeling better and lighter and more teamy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they said that people are staying in the locker room longer to hang out with each other and goof around and talk. And it sounds like Wedgwood is an absolute. I mean, that guy might go on to have like an acting career or like at least in broadcasting, because I guess that he just is super open and super goofy. And there was a great interview I should send you afterwards, but like talking about growing up. And I mean, I don't even know. It's weird when you think about other goaltenders that, I mean, we don't know anything about them. And Wedgwood, I feel like makes himself even more likable simply because he's so open. And I don't know, did you love the helmet?
Are you talking about Blackwood's helmet or Wedgwood's?
Blackwood, sorry. We built it up.
The weird, muscly, fleshy mountain.
Yeah. Be prepared for like, I'm never going to get them right. Like 80% of the time between Wedgwood and Blackwood.
The only way I can remember it is that Blackwood has Francois's old number.
Oh.
That's literally the only way I can remember.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's weird. Wedgwood was 29 before, wasn't he?
Wedgwood.
I think Wedgwood had to change his number.
Did he? I can't remember. But I mean, you look at this. You look at the statistics, though. So Blackwood played 4 out of the last 5, with Wedgwood playing 1.
Yeah.
2 goals allowed was the most in those last 5 games, right? So it was a 4-2 win over San Jose, a 4-2 win over Anaheim, a 5-2 win over Seattle, a 4-1 win over Utah, and a 5-2 win over Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Right. Now, granted, Eric Comrie was playing in that game, but still,
that's an offensive. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, it's an offensive juggernaut with Winnipeg anyways, so the fact that you still out-muscled them says quite a bit.
Yeah.
So let's kind of dive into it here. So there are a couple things that I want to highlight. 2 players in particular. One is Joel Kiviranta, and the other is Arturi Lehkonen. The 2 Finnish boys over the last 5 games both netted their first ever. Well, I guess that'd be Kiviranta's second, I suppose, but the first and second ever career hat tricks.
I know that it's been said. I just cannot believe that was Lehkonen's first hat trick. It's like,
yeah, it feels like it should have been his like 8th.
I know, and I guess that his goals are just so timely that they stand out, as opposed to being high in numbers. And he does a lot of setting up too. But yeah, that was shocking. That was in Utah too. Were you at the game?
I was at the game and I watched it happen before my very eyes. Nice. And when I tell, because I had never seen a hat trick in my life.
Really?
Right. So when Lehkonen
do it.
So when I didn't bring a hat because I was like, oh, it's cold or I don't need a hat. So I didn't bring one. But as soon as Lehkonen potted that empty netter, my sister, who's also an Avalanche fan, we each stand up and we're both like going crazy and finding the nearest Avalanche fans we could find.
Or were Avs high or low in numbers, did you feel?
The first time they came to Utah, it felt like it was like half and half, that stadium. It really did. But this time it felt like there was a little less Avalanche fans, but still plenty around us, right? So we didn't feel like left out or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, but the fact, that was Lehkonen's first hat trick is surprising and long overdue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because he's put in the work. He had the game-winning goal in Game 6 of the finals, and he's done everything. He's the workhorse guy. He's Mr. Rebound. He's down in the trenches, like. It just feels like this reward should have happened 2 seasons ago, Yeah,
that's crazy. Did he
pick one? Say that again?
Did he pick one to keep? I always love so. You guys pick the weirdest hat.
I hope so, but there were a good chunk of hats on the ice, but it was a real treat to see that, especially history for him and to be there. That was really special. But then Joel Kiviranta as well. We got to talk about him. He's got 5 goals in the last 5 games. He's on a heater right now, Britt. I mean, he's scoring points. I don't want to say at will, but he's performed so well.
Yeah,
in the last 5 games,
and that's
very reliable.
Seems like something that's always been. He is someone that is so easy to forget on this team and just kind of write off as a tweener or not like a solidified part of the roster. But at this point, I would consider him almost a need to the team. I mean, he has been one of the most, just like stable. What's the word I'm looking for?
He's just kind of your workhorse.
Consistent players.
Consistent. Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to put it.
Which is something that we have lacked so much. And he seems to have brought it through most of our struggles. I mean, I don't know that I would rely on him staying at this level constantly, but it would be nice if he could stay close to it.
Oh, it'd be wonderful. I mean, the 5 goals, one of them being a hat trick, the other one being a brace, right, with 2 goals. And then he nets an assist in this most recent game against Winnipeg. I mean, it's been really impressive to see how he's, I don't want to say turned a new leaf because, again, like you said, we don't know if that's going to be something sustainable or whatnot. But right now, it's really helpful. It's really nice to see that depth.
You wish we had signed him to a 1-year contract.
I know it's crazy because, like, I remember at the beginning of the season, we said, "Oh yeah, Joel Kiviranta, he's fine. He's mistake free." We said this kind of the polite things and stuff like that. But now you got to sing.
Disappear. Like, I mean,
yeah.
He was
he won't do anything to hurt, but he wouldn't do anything to help, right? So the fact that he's done this
is how he is in the regular season. If he ramps it up like he seems to have done for us, and I mean, he's a playoff dude. So if he can continue this trajectory and then right into the playoffs, I mean, that would be crazy.
Oh, it'd be phenomenal. So fingers crossed that gets to happen. In fact, when we talk about our New Year's resolutions here in a second, he is one of them that I'm going to discuss. But yeah, right now the Finnish kids are they're the ones kind of spearheading everything apart from obviously your Mount Rushmore of McKinnons and all that kind of stuff. But another finally that just one last thing that I want to discuss is Casey Middlestat finally scored a goal.
God. Could you see like just weight literally just floating off of him?
You could see not only the elation, but just the gosh, I don't even know what to call it. Just a weight desperate relief and just kind of like a sigh of unburdened whatever, It was,
and then he played lighter the rest of the game. You could tell that there was a monkey on his back and he played better, lighter, more confident. Couldn't think of a better way for that to happen because that was pretty much exactly what he needed and he earned it. It sucks that it's at the sake of Nichushkin getting hurt, but he was demoted to the 4th line. And he probably deserved it. And it's hard to break yourself out when you're on the 4th line. It's going to be harder to get goals. You're going to have weirder matchups. But a lot of it came down. Bednar used the term so many times, and it's not moving his feet. And so he used it too. So apparently he heard it. But yeah, hopefully he can stay consistent from here on out because he seems to be kind of up and down. But it is hard to remember too that he's young and he's coming from a team several years of not having much expectations. You know what I mean? When he talked about the practice when he first got here. So he is going to still have to adjust the expectations.
Yeah. So hopefully it lights a spark in him because right now that's only his 8th goal. I mean, he's behind Colton, who had his 11th, Lehkonen, who had his 14th in that game. Oh, and Devon Toews, by the way, got a second. I was going to
say, how does Devon Toews only have 2 goals?
That's the crazy part.
That first fan was so gnarly. He could have like pulled a muscle on that first whiff. And I don't even know if the second shot, it wasn't like a good one. I think it was so bad that's why that 5-hole was open, because he was almost confused by it.
He got himself. He tricked himself and the goalie at the same time.
That was no Callum pretty funny. Out. That was straight up whiff, and then like a knuckle.
The which now? Sorry, say that one more time.
That wasn't like a Callum Ritchie whiff. That was like an actual
that was
an actual whiff and then fumbling it.
It was a pretty funny goal, but hey, it's his nonetheless, and you can't take that from him. So, okay. So that being said, while we're still in these high spirits, Brit, now that it's 2025, I wanted to go over some New Year's resolutions for this season, I should say. Just to see if we can keep this sustained success, because right now we've seen the last 5 games, they've been awesome offensively, right? And so I kind of wanted to go through a few New Year's resolutions just to see kind of where we are, how they can achieve them, all that good stuff. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All righty. So I'll go first. This New Year's resolution comes off of piggybacking when we were talking about goaltending, and that is I want to see shutouts now by these two. I've seen them. They've performed great, right? They haven't been perfect, but they've done the job just fine, right? And there's going to be games where they're the ones who save the rest of the team. We're
giving up a lot of high danger chances still, which was kind of shocked me when I was looking through some stuff on we are still giving up a lot of high danger chances and they're keeping us in it. But yeah, it would be, have we had a shutout all year? A single one?
I think 1, maybe 2.
Okay.
I think. But either way, the New Year's resolution for me right now for these two is to start getting some shutouts.
Yeah.
There's nothing more of a confidence booster than a shutout and, keeping that kind of thing sustained. So my New Year's resolutions for the goaltending tandem, more shutouts.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Britt? What kind of New Year's resolutions would you say this team could benefit from?
For the goaltending?
Well, for anyone, for anything, for whatever.
Mine is, I can't stop saying this word, but just consistency. I just want to, like, everybody, we've seen so many guys perform up and down at different levels throughout. Seems like everybody's had a good high that we thought that they were going to be one of our heroes this year, and then they just kind of fall off. So really just consistency. I don't even want like blowout wins. I just want to see us. I really feel like Bednar talks about like the segments and stuff. It would be so nice to see us go on to win like 8 of 10 in the next few seconds. Really, I just think that really blowing it out of the park right now and finding some momentum would be really good for this team.
Oh, it'd be huge, because like
in standings, the amount of points that we're not that far back from like Minnesota is shocking to me. I thought that it feels like we should be so far back. But if we have a couple super solid weeks, we're going to be right.
We'll be right in there. Yeah. We'll be right in that mix, and that's. I mean, we had this whole phase of, are we? Woe is me. Everything sucks. Whatever. But at the end of the day, we knew that this type of a turnaround was going to happen, right? Yeah. We didn't know it was going to take a brand new goaltending tandem and a new locker room vibe to do it, but either way, it happened, right? So it's nice to see, and I think you're exactly right with consistency. That's a really great resolution because it's easily achievable, and they know how to do it.
Yeah,
they know their own team better than anyone else. Okay, next resolution for me.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you're moving on from it. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. So next resolution for me, I want to see Gabe Landeskog play a freaking game.
Well,
and I know he was at morning skate. He was practicing with the boys. Like everything was great, but
yeah, that looks pretty.
I want to see him in the game on the ice, because again, it was like 6 weeks of nothing. You didn't hear a peep about Landeskog, and next thing he's in warm-up gear like the rest of them, and I'm like,
on the ice to prove he was alive, because for a while there, it felt like seriously concerning that no one.
I just hope it wasn't like a gimmick. You know what I mean?
I kind of feel like it was, though, but they made it sound like it's just good for the dudes for him to be out there being dudes, and maybe it is, but it's also a really big tease for our hearts. Like, don't mess with us.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's the resolution. Is maybe it's postseason, maybe it's toward the end of the season. I don't know, March, April-ish, but I'm ready to see 92 back out there on the ice, like very desperately.
I know, or to know that we won't, to settle it like in our hearts, would be cool.
Yeah. So that's one of my other resolutions, Britt. What else do you have?
And I think that every team may have their own beef with the level of how bad a team is at this, but I feel like the Avs and I need to look it up. The Avs are so infuriating when they get too many men on the ice, and that second goal, that was like a direct result of Manson was out there late because oh my god, brain fart. What's the new guy's name?
You're talking about Juuso Parasinen?
Yeah.
He changed. Parson,
he had a bad change.
Whatever.
But it just does not feel like we have a higher level than one would anticipate from an. And I did some research a while back, and that is the guys. It's not the coach. From what I understand, that is to be blamed on the guys, not the coach. But it just feels like at the level that they're at, especially when we've been doing it for so long that we literally have had full blown NHL changing up the rules because of our offsides and line changes. I don't know. But yeah, that second goal last night, it was just a bad change. And it just feels like shouldn't be that sloppy. And a lot of it might just come together with more consistent lines and partners and people and guys that we've just had so much turnover that it might just come together naturally. But otherwise, hopefully it comes together with intention, because it feels like it's a lot.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It seems like that seems to be the penalty that the Avalanche get caught on more than any other team in the NHL.
Yes.
And it is infuriating. It is very annoying. So I think that's a good resolution, is clean that up. I mean, who you're supposed to be behind. Who's calling who to change shifts. I mean, it's not rocket science. So I think that's it.
Especially when while our penalty kill was struggling, it's not a smart idea to do.
Yeah, not even close.
The easiest penalty that you can get anything out of. So
sure. My next resolution, and since I did mention Joel Kiviranta, he is involved in this one. I want to see that depth scoring, particularly now that Kiviranta is playing well. But I also want to see people, the likes of Parker Kelly. I want to see him do well.
He's been
and then Casey Middlestat was the third. I'd like those three particularly. It's like they're due to start shining, and especially with Middlestat, where he was supposed to be your bona fide second line center. It's time for him to really step up, and hopefully that goal is kind of what kickstarts these things. And with Kiviranta, hopefully that hat trick kind of propels him to want to do more. And Parker Kelly with his penalty kill and his defense, that shorthanded goal that he had, all those things. Again, a lot of it is bad puck luck on his part, I will admit. But yeah. I think he's at that point now where it's time to kind of show off the skill instead of just that defensive capability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yep. So that's one of them for me, Britt. Do you have another, or because I have an honorary one for you that I'll save until we're completely done.
Well, okay, so the New Year's Eve game, so maybe they started a little bit early. My only other thing is I would really like to see the cup team that we had is different than what we had now, but I feel like we can still pull from that, is just to have more offense coming from our defense, like a little more aggressive, which in the Winnipeg game, there was a lot of defense.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot of the credit goes to defense for those goals that we had. And I just don't think that I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about? I can't say that it's been awful and it's been hard with injuries, but I'd really like to see our defense turn it back up, because I think that was kind of like the X factor that we had in our cup run, was our defense's ability to contribute so much.
And I think that's exactly it. I mean, now that we're starting to show signs-ish of life on the power play, and we're doing okay on the penalty kill, I think that's it. You got to tune that even further to where you're scoring over half the time with your power plays, and then you gotta shut it down on those penalty kills, because again, Avalanche, they're no stranger to committing dumb penalties.
Yeah.
So you got to know how to cut those down and how to defend until the last dying breath, effectively.
Yeah.
I do. Okay, so I do have one last resolution for you. I'm saying this for you. Are you ready? By the end of the 2024-25 season, Sidney Crosby will be wearing an Avalanche sweater.
Yes, he will. I don't even. Yeah, it's not even we're gonna try to do this. That's a 2025 demand. Wow, that sounded really weird saying 2025.
That is crazy to say, but here we are, almost done with the 2020s, halfway over.
Well, but contracts, maybe signing a Mikko Rantanen contract would be a decent one.
That's exactly, you got me right, actually, right on the.
Otherwise, Mitch Marner, hello.
Whoa! All right, now let's relax here. No, that was my last resolution, was to get that dang contract signed. Beat me to the punch. It would be nice. That one, and then I would also add Wedgwood. Now I know he has another year left on his contract, so we can kind of keep that around.
Have we talked about our goalie that we drafted? He's planning to come over here next year.
Nabokov?
That Nabokov, apparently his contract is done in May and he intends to come over here. But they would let him, he would cook in the AHL for a while. But I just don't remember if we had talked about that. But
interesting.
I didn't realize how important he was. But the big Russian coach that trained Shesterkin and all the main guys, he said candidly in some interview that he think that Nabokov is just as good as Shesterkin. So that's really exciting.
I mean, fingers crossed, because I think, again, like with what you said, we haven't had a sustained goalie for more than 3 years at a time.
No,
and it's annoying.
If we had Blackwood for a couple years to back up Blackwood, I mean, it could kind of usher in like a nice transition of.
Oh, sure.
Because I don't know how old.
No, and I'm all for it. Again, it could be that for your next 10 years you have good goaltending, and that's something we haven't been able to say for the last 15.
Yeah.
So that's always good news. But I wasn't aware that his contract was up in May. I thought he had another year.
Yeah, I didn't expect that at all.
Left.
I thought he was a long-term thing. But Scott Wedgwood, I feel like they need. Even if his ceiling is not ever going to be super high, I feel like he's somebody worth keeping around as a stable, calm on the ice. I don't know. It's hard. And we probably have a couple hard games coming at some point. It feels like one of them's going to have to shit, right? Because it feels like it's too good. But I feel like he is a really, really good piece of this team in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because who's supposed to be in net tonight? Is that Wedgwood?
Wedgwood, yeah.
Yeah. So, again, as long as you're keeping them both well-seasoned, where they're both getting time. I think that's really a good way to go.
And it's nice because when you hear which one it is, you don't really care. I didn't feel like
you don't exactly, and it's something we haven't felt in a little bit,
And then feel stressed about whichever one it was, no matter who it was.
Yes, because right, they're both outrageously tall. They got great reaches. They trap instead of deflect. Like it's great. It's been an awesome 2 moves, and right now it's been paying off. And speaking of in net for tonight, we do have a game after this podcast is over, after this episode is over. So let's go ahead and dive into the upcoming games, including tonight's, including keys to the game and how we can keep this 5-game winning streak alive. Starting with hopefully making it 6 against Buffalo. Puck drop is in about a little less than half an hour. So let's kind of talk about Buffalo real quick, Britt. So right now they were going off of like a 11, 12-game losing streak, but now they stopped it. But now they've got what, 2 free games?
Yeah, I thought they were on a good little winning streak.
Let's see. They were for a second, and then their last one they dropped against the Stars. But what's the vibe with Buffalo, Britt? Like, what's going on? What do you think?
Okay, so let me see. Honestly, I don't know what to expect out of this team. I thought that Dahlin is hurt, isn't he? I was trying to check and see if he's going to be there.
Yeah.
They're one of the teams that stays so far off my radar because I just don't care about them unless it's drama. I'm trying to see, and is Bo healthy?
Bo's, I think Bo's in.
Okay, so Bo is going to want it bad. We love a revenge game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So Luukkonen, Levi.
Luukkonen's, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's going to be in net, I see. But
okay. And he's we need to play our game because they're just not like structured I just don't think that there's really any particular plan against them. I heard today that every game that we have been winning after the first period, we've gone on to win the game. So ideally just win the first period. It just seems like it's a thing. But yeah, scoring the first goal of the game has proven to be a good way to set the tone. I don't think
and I think that's exactly right. That's a good key to the game is set the tone early, do what we've been doing, and like you said, the metrics show that if you score first, you're winning. So that's
on this team too.
What's that?
Kubella's on this team. Abe Kubel.
Oh, that's right.
There's some weirdies in this one. Greenway. He just not.
They got a strange team. My key to the game for Buffalo is to suppress their offense because, again, even though they've been losing and they've had these losing streaks and this and whatever, with Tage Thompson spearheading this offense, they can catch fire like crazy and just go up 3-0 on you so fast like they did the last time we played them.
Tage Thompson is playing good, very good right now, right?
So he kind of leads the way with that offensive charge of Buffalo's. And again, I think it was by the end of the first period when we were in Buffalo, it was 4-0. And we mounted a comeback, and it was amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it was white hot.
Definitely the kind of game that we like to lose. Painfully.
Yep. So that would be my key to the game for this upcoming game tonight and with Buffalo. So hopefully, again, you manage to do exactly what we just talked about, is to win that first period, keep them off the board. I mean, if there's a time to do a shutout like our New Year's resolutions, it would be tonight. It would be awesome. I think it would be great. Okay, so following tonight's game, the Avalanche are still at home, and they then play Saturday, 5 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop against Montreal. So we had the return of Byram here, and then we have the return of Newhook next time. So Montreal, Britt, they're another team where they're middle of the pack. They're 17-17-3. And I don't know how to get a read on this team, like, at all.
They're having kind of like a teeny weeny like renaissance right now with Line A is drumming up. He's playing good. Like, he's playing really good, but he also can't carry the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Newhook, isn't he playing like second lane center for them? I mean, they're just not that
Something
good.
Like that.
They're also all still NHL players, and it feels like the same story as the Sabres. We just need to come out and play our game for the whole game and not. We seem to have huge lapses against bad teams when we drop the ball. I mean, when we've lost, I feel like I can remember more games that we've lost like Arizona and the Ducks than anyone. So it would just be nice to close those up and take every single point possible, because these are the kind of points that will matter at the end of the year now. A lot more than they have.
I totally agree. Yep. I 100% agree, and I think that's a great key to the game. My key to the game is you got to match the physicality of Montreal. Now, they have heavy hitters on their squad. I'm talking Arbor Shakai. I'm talking about Nick Suzuki, who can mix it up. Line is not afraid to get involved. I mean, they have a lot of guys that'll hit you. Gallagher, like Slavkovsky. I mean, I can go on, but they are not afraid to get involved and scrap it up, right? And so they play a very physical game. And so I think to be ready for that, you have to match physicality. You have to get ready to get hit and do some hitting. I think some fights will ensue. I really do. Some gloves are going to be dropped.
Yeah.
But you also have to send a message saying, hey, we can play your style of game too. Not only can we outskate you, we're faster than you, but we can match physicality, right? Something the Avalanche aren't really known for in this modern time, but they can still do it, right?
Yeah.
So that's my key to the game with Montreal is you've got to be the same physicality.
We got our fighter, McKinnon. He'll take care of it.
Exactly. Yeah. He can now that I've seen him drop gloves, and I was so surprised when I saw that. I was like,
you could tell he was very mindful of like not hurting his hands though. Like he knew
it was a fight.
Was watching. Yeah. And I get it. I mean, so strange. I can't believe that guy doesn't fight more and not like
it is very strange. But yeah, he's got it. He's got a thing for the ghosts of the Arizona Coyotes or something. I don't know.
Weird. I
don't know.
So weird.
All right.
It's all good.
Next game, you're still at home and you face the reigning Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. That's Monday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop. Right now, again, Florida still top 5 team in the league right now. So what's something to prepare for this game? Because obviously this is one where you're going to have your best foot forward, because we talked about this. We were even subject to it. The season after we won, you had the target on your back. Everyone wanted to go out and beat
everybody played hard.
Right?
Yeah.
So what's the key to the game against Florida?
I think with them, a big part of it is going to be coming in level-headed and staying level-headed. Like, I don't know if you watch a whole lot of random NHL stuff, but oh my God, if you watch how much Matthew Tkachuk throws some of the most incredible.
Oh, it's nuts.
He gets guys to absolutely lose their mind and just be unable to play their game. Like, and they're rats. That's what they are. And so it'd be nice if, considering we've already kind of proven that we've had some like toxicity issues, or we're not fragile, but you know what I mean? We need to go out there ready to battle. And it would be nice if we would be at a point where everybody was getting along well enough that we could not have the rats be an issue, because it's such a big part of it, as much as people don't really think it is or think about it.
Yeah. And I think that's, he has this little mind game, very similar to Brad Marchand and the entire Tampa Bay Lightning team.
And he's chewing on his mouth guard. That just adds to the.
He's got something about him. I don't know what it is, but he likes to pick fights. And his brother Brady
the goalies
love to fight, man. It's so weird. But my key to the game actually goes to the crease. And that's going to be assuming Bobrovsky plays against us.
Yeah.
Which I hope he does. I want to make sure that you keep him uncomfortable, right? Yeah. Because when he's in playoff mode, he is damn near impossible to score against.
And we broke him last year in one game, didn't we? Didn't we put up like 4 or 5 goals on him real quick in a game?
I believe so.
I think it was at the end of last year. I'm not positive, but it seems like we've solved him before, and he's breakable once you get him.
He is, but that's the thing is you got to get him first, because if not, it could be something very similar to a couple seasons ago, that Carolina series. Bobrovsky stood on his head,
and that's the difference in letting them get feeling sexy and getting in their head like right away. And that's the importance of scoring a goal right away. The better a goalie feels, the higher they're going to go.
Exactly. So you got to keep him uncomfortable throughout the game, whether that means testing him often, and eventually maybe one squeaks in or whatever it is. I don't care if it's puck luck at this point, but you have to make sure he is being exercised and tired out. And that way you can penalties. Exactly.
There's a lot of retaliation penalties that I can just see Mikko.
Oh yeah, amongst other people like Miles Wood or Ross Colton or Logan O'Connor, or the fact that I can name people is just very disappointing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be my key in this Florida game is you got to make Bobrovsky uncomfortable.
Yeah. Ideally, we should be cruising by then. I mean, granted, Nichushkin.
I really hope so.
Hopefully, we should really be at the best we've been all season, which is funny because then the Four Nations will probably just disrupt us just as we find our. Yeah. You know what I mean? Once we find our sweet spot, and that happened to us last year too, didn't it?
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yep. So next game is going to now that you're done with that homestead, you then go on the road for these next 2 games that we'll talk about. The first one being Wednesday. This one's on TNT, so national broadcast. We know how we do win those. And 5:30 Mountain Time puck drop in Chicago. This one, Brit, again, this one should be your easy one. And I say that, knock on wood. But this one should be, I don't want to call it a gimme, but this one should be your make sure everything's fine-tuned. Just play your game, be aggressive, play with urgency. But just a fine-tuning game is my key to the game, is you have to make sure that you're on point, because your next series of games after this, it's a gauntlet. It's a real gauntlet. So
our schedule is so bad this year. But with Chicago, it feels like one of those ones where we could get cruising and feeling hot, and then just drop it. And I can tell you that I experienced, assuming that it was a gimme game, drove 8 hours to Chicago last year when the team was even worse, and we still lost to them. So it's not out of – every team is still an NHL team, and these points matter so much this year. At this point, we have any point that is that we should get, we absolutely have to get. And now a lot of the points that we weren't necessarily assuming or would have been okay with like a scheduled loss, we just can't anymore, because we can't get, you know what I mean? With the way that
every game matters.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. And keep in mind, when we were at our lowest of lows last season, the lowest of lows, the basement, was when we lost to Chicago. At Chicago. And that it just felt like the world was going to end, and like it was hard to stay positive.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, is hopefully that's not a jinx or anything like that. So with, statistics are on your side, offenses are on your side, goaltending's on your side, everything's showing Avalanche way. So just make sure it stays that way, because this next bunch of games, but we'll just talk about one more tonight, it's going to be a gauntlet. It's going to be crazy. I mean, I don't like it.
Pray to God we're healthy by then.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Stay healthy through that.
Yep. And so that one is on a back-to-back, that one against Chicago. So the second one of that back-to-back is on Thursday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop. That's in Minnesota. Those are the people you're chasing right now, right? And they're playing super well. Like, I don't understand how their offense can continue to make this kind of a production despite the fact that their goaltending. What's that?
It sounds like they're coming back to earth slowly. They announced that Sturgeon is hurt today, but
maybe
if the Wild fans genuinely, I had a conversation the other day with a Wild fan, and like if they can wholeheartedly believe that this goaltending is sustainable through not only the regular season but the playoffs, they are out of their minds. Like they have to keep waiting for it. But we need a win.
This is one where
like the mini playoff.
Yeah, this is another prove it game similar to the one against Florida where it's like, hey, these are guys you're chasing, right? They're better than you statistically speaking. You got to go out and prove that, hey, like you had a little bit of a stumble, but you're not as, laughable as people think you are, or you're not as well, you're more well-rounded than people think you are, stuff like that. So my key to the game is just going to be play mistake-free. So that mistake-free means that you need to stay out of the penalty box. You need to play a clean game because right now Minnesota's power play is good. It's kind of been stumbling recently, but it's still good, right? So again, you got to keep yourselves out of the box, and in this case, it's going to need to happen because they can strike very, very well on that power play, and even though you have a pretty good penalty kill, that doesn't mean it needs to be exercised all the time. So that's going to be my key to the game. Brit, are you still with us? She might not be. She might have dropped. So I think we'll see if we can get her on to say her key to the game for Minnesota. Oh, she might have dropped right out. However, I do want to bring up one more thing, and that is when I said that it's a gauntlet next week. Listen to what we're going to talk about the teams next week. Better yet, let me just read off the rest of the month for you guys. So after the Blackhawks game, you have the Wild, then you have the Jets, then you have the Rangers, then you have the Oilers, Stars, Wild again, Jets again, Bruins, Rangers again, Islanders, and Blues. None of those are gimmies, right? I know some teams right now are stuck in ruts or whatever, but that doesn't mean that they're just going to roll over and die. Like none of these guys. This is going to be a tough rest of the month, schedule-wise. So you got to make sure that you're on your game for this whole rest of the month. It's not going to be easy. However, if you are able to squeak out these wins against these better opponents, you're going to be in a better position come playoff time. So that's oh, here she is. Was that your dogs? Are we blaming the dogs?
My computer literally said it restarted and said your computer shut off because of a problem. That's all it said. Matt, right. Something to that. Yeah. So there's a problem.
Right. Oh, and then the problem it looks like it just jump back at you because I see a loading screen. Let's see. Are you still with us? She might not be. But either way, we only got about 5 minutes left, so we at least made it this far. But I think that is going to run us all the way to the end for this episode. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast. We really do enjoy your guys' viewership and interaction. Hopefully you guys can tell your friends, recommend us, whatever it is. If you like Avalanche talk, we love talking about it, and we hope you guys do have appreciative thoughts with our input and stuff like that. But either way, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, you can do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook or at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. With that being said, we got some hockey to play. So we have Buffalo tonight. Again, one game at a time, but we know the keys to these games in order to keep this 5-game winning streak alive. So let's focus on Buffalo tonight. Hopefully we can continue to build off of our momentum going into this new year. Hopefully our New Year's resolutions come true. And let's kind of start making a little kick for the playoff here now that we're approaching half over with the season. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's the harsh reality of hockey, is that sometimes you just have to know where you're at in the season, and sometimes you got to be optimistic about, hey, we're halfway over. Other times you're pessimistic because it means the end of hockey is on its way. So either way, let's go get 2 points. And as always, go Avs go.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.